Saturday walk with grandfather. Christina was walking hand in hand with her grandfather. Oh, how she enjoyed going for walks with him. Today they were walking the short distance down the street to the park. Sometimes they would go to the zoo, where they would imitate the animals, making each other laugh. They would also go to one of the museums. The art museum was her favorite, where they would fantasize about being inside the paintings. One time they took a drive and parked at the end of the airport and just sat there watching the planes take off and land, trying to guess where it was going. Her grandfather also enjoyed Christina's company. She was the only one of his grandchildren who was not a spoiled, rotten brat. She never asked or begged for something and then throw a conniption fit if she did not get her way. He was happy that they all lived far away and only came to visit a few times a year. Christina lived with her mother, his youngest daughter, and her father just around the corner from his home. She was 8 years old and the youngest of his grandchildren. He enjoyed the times that they had together. She was always polite and asked please and said thank you. He enjoyed playing games with her. She never cheated or threw a tantrum if she lost. A highlight of his week is when the two of them would go on one of their adventures on Saturday afternoons. On this Saturday, they were wandering around the park. He had brought a couple of pieces of bread to feed the ducks that lived in the pond. If his grandsons were with them, they would throw rocks at the ducks, scaring them away. There are several benches facing the pond. Their favorite one was near the water's edge. This is where they would sit while feeding the ducks. As soon as they started walking up to the bench, the ducks started coming up out of the water to greet them. Just before he sat down on the bench, grandfather produced the 2 slices of bread out of his jacket pocket. He did it with flair, as if he was a magician making them appear out of thin air. This always got that cute, silly giggle from Christina that made him smile and laugh. They each took one of the slices and tore it up into little pieces and threw it to the ducks. They would laugh as they called out the silly names they had given to the ducks. The one they called Saddles, because the markings on his back looked like a saddle, would come right up to them and take a piece of bread from their hand. When the bread was all gone, they stood up and started to walk away. The ducks followed them until they stopped and faced them, holding their hands up, showing them that they had no more bread. It was as if the ducks understood and started going back to the pond until they saw someone else with food, so they all ran over to that person. Christina held her grandfather's hand and started skipping. He looked down at her and he started skipping with her. He did not care what people thought, for he was having the best time just being with his granddaughter. They slowly worked their way around to where the big carousel was. It was not operating right now. It was closed for scheduled maintenance according to the sign. They still walked all the way around it, pointing out which horses were their favorites. Some of them had a fresh coat of paint on them. They ended up near the ice cream stand. As they got closer, grandfather started to stumble and pretended to be getting weaker, saying, "I'm getting so weak I think I need some energy." Christina responded by grabbing her grandfather's arm and guided him towards the ice cream stand. "Here, grandfather, let me help you. We can get some energy over here." She too started to pretend that she was getting weaker. Sam, the ice cream man, stood behind his counter getting a good laugh at these 2 dramatic hams. He has seen this scene play out many times. He knew they would come up and look at all the different flavors he had. They have been coming to his stand for years, and in the end, Christina would pick peppermint stick and her grandfather pistachio. After they had reached the stand, they both looked over all the flavors. Christina quickly picked peppermint stick. As Sam was scooping up the ice cream, grandfather said, "I'll have the coconut peanut butter." Sam responded, "Don't have it." "Then I'll have the banana fudge." "Don't have it." Sam kept getting Christina's ice cream without looking up, but he had a smile on his face as grandfather made up the silly flavors. Christina would giggle at each new flavor. "How about avocado mango?" "Just ran out of it." "Okay, then I guess I'll have the pistachio. You do have pistachio, don't you?" "I always have some just for you." When he reached into his pocket to get his wallet, Christina looked up at her grandfather and said, "Today this is my treat. I have monies to pay for it." She then reached into her pocket and pulled out a variety of coins and set them on the counter. Grandfather got an astonished look on his face, for someone else actually offered to pay for something. This little act of kindness was very unusual behavior amongst his grandchildren, for they always expected him to pay for everything without showing any gratitude. This is why he always enjoyed being with Christina. She never took anything for granted. She did not beg or demand to have something. If she remained this way as she got older, she was in for a surprise, for she would inherit most of his fortune upon his and her grandmother's deaths. "Okay, that will be $1.20, young lady," said Sam, as he placed the 2 bowls of ice cream on the counter. He then shuffled through the coins, counting them. "You have $1.15 here. You are short 5 cents. Christina searched her pockets to see if she had any more coins, but she did not. She looked up at her grandfather, and with a hurt feeling on her face, she did something she had never done before. "Grandfather, do you have 5 cents? I can pay you back," he asked her. "Do you want me to give you the money, or are you borrowing it and going to pay me back?" "Oh, I promise you I will pay you back when we get home." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a nickel and placed it on the counter. They both picked up their ice creams and went over and sat at a table to eat it. Once they were done eating, they started walking back to Christina's house. During the walk home, Grandfather explained to Christina what it meant to borrow money, and when you paid it back, you also paid interest on the money you borrowed. That is how banks make money. When they arrived at Christina's house, they were greeted by her mother. Christina immediately ran to her room and returned, handing her grandfather a dime. "Here's the money I borrowed in interest. Is that enough interest?" "Yes, it is, and I thank you for paying it back." He had not expected her to actually pay him back, especially the interest. He took it only to help teach her that when you borrow money, you must pay it back and pay interest on it. He gave her a big kiss on her cheek, saying, "You are the only one who has borrowed money from me and actually paid it all back, and with interest." Looking down at her, Christina had a big, proud smile on her face. Meanwhile, her mother had a look of, "What is this all about?" on her face. Before she could ask, her father said, "I must be going. I promised your mother I would take her to the country club tonight. Goodbye, all." He gave his daughter a peck on the cheek. As he walked down the walkway from the front door to the street, he flipped the dime in the air, catching it, and then slid it into his pocket. Thinking, "Yes, today I taught my granddaughter a valuable lesson," and for no reason he started to skip.